Welcome to the Hard Count. It is Monday, January 20th, last one on the face of the planet, the last game of the 2024 college football season is about to happen. Now, we're living in 2025, so the vibes are immaculate. We got a lot to jump into. A little special edition today of the Hard Count, okay? You're seeing this now Monday morning. We're about to unpack everything to get you ready for this national title game. We got game plans we're breaking down, what do it mean for both head coaches, some bold predictions. Now, you know we are not a hot take show. We don't traffic in that too much. However, there's a time and place to be bold. As Teddy Roosevelt says, the credit goes to the man in the arena. We're going to step into the arena, swing our sword, have a good time there. I love the national championship game so much. I love attending the national championship game for so many reasons. One is like, just as a fan, watching this game on television for, my entire life, and actually being here is a dream come true. But what is so cool about this is before the game, media gets a chance to be down there on the field for a good 45-ish minutes, and regardless of who you work for, whether it's ESPN, whether you're independent, whoever you are, there is nobody that is too big for that moment. And during that 45-minute span, you could be Kirk Herbstreit, you could be anybody. But like for that 45 minutes, when you're on the grass or the turf just checking it out, like everybody's in awe, everyone's taking in the moment, everyone's smiling. Nobody's having just a regular day at work being down there pregame for the national championship. So I can't wait for that today. That's going to be a lot of fun. But let's start here, man. What would be the requirements for both these teams to hoist the hardware at the end of this whole deal tonight? I'll start with Notre Dame. Notre Dame wins if. The game plan for Notre Dame, to me, it starts on defense. Like yesterday or 2 days ago, I guess, during media days, it was very obvious. Notre Dame is making it very clear, hey, we're going to play man coverage. That's who we are. That's who we've been all season. We like our guys versus your guys. Let's roll. That has got to work. Like what I have written down here is the adhesive for Notre Dame and this whole game plan has got to hold, which is the man coverage. Because they're 57% man. They've gone out ahead of themselves, like I already mentioned, and told Ohio State they're going to play man. Now, here's what I would say. I don't think it'll be a thing where you walk out there and have a extremely clear picture as to what you're looking at if you're Will Howard. Like I would expect Notre Dame to mix it up to some degree with that man coverage, even if they end up playing man coverage during that snap. I think they'll rotate safeties. I think they will try and disguise it a bit and try to keep Will Howard guessing. But at the end of the day, like if you want to make this the physical, muddy game, like you got to be able to keep Ohio State from having those 3-play drives that go 75 yards and end with a deep strike to Jeremiah Smith. Like that cannot be the way that you get beat. So they've called their shot, both as from a personnel perspective, from a coaching perspective. Al Golden said as much, like they said we're going to play man. That has got to be a sticking point for them if they want to win this football game. On the flip side of that, everyone said the same thing about how Notre Dame would win this thing. It's got to be messy. It's got to be muddy. They got to drag them into the deep water. They got to make it an ugly, gross game. That's all true. But how would we know if this game gets gross and gets messy? The answer to me is time of possession. Okay, so Notre Dame has to definitively possess the football, extend drives, and find a way to keep Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith and the Monstars over there under Chip Kelly watching this football game more than they're playing this football game. All right, we're all aligned there. And to me, it doesn't even need to be a thing where Notre Dame lights up the box score when it comes to the points and the yards. It's just got to be a thing of can you extend some drives? Because even if you don't get points, just the fact that, one, you're eating clock and making this game shorter favors you. Also, in addition to that, if you can just have some punts that flip the field, I know it's kind of a boring thing to say, but if you can make Ohio State start on the 20 as opposed to the 40, that's massive. That's massive. And again, that gives you a chance here to hang around and, again, make it ugly, make it messy. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm just like, get this thing to the fourth quarter, dude. Get us to the fourth quarter, have it be a one-score game, whether it's us or them, and we like our chances. Their traits then have a chance, I believe, to show themselves when they get to that spot. Okay, so it has to be a thing where that works. We've talked about this all week long, too. The game plan for Notre Dame has got to be creative. It has to be. Because we talk about the talent gap, and that talent gap probably gets overblown a little bit because Notre Dame has some really freaking good players, regardless of what they were as recruits. They have developed into guys that I would say are like 5-star caliber, if you will. But even with that being said, like offensively, I think you need to find a way to get Ohio State guessing. Like I need some trick plays, I need some movement, I need some creativity that results in some big explosive plays, whether it be in the run game or the pass game. And what that would do to Ohio State is just what I said. It keeps them guessing. Like you ever had a prank pulled on you? Like maybe someone puts your stuff in Jell-O, shout out The Office, maybe someone, I won't go into the other pranks that could be happening in your office place. But what that does to you is just it makes you question everything. Like Ohio State, they're so good defensively because they trust their eyes, they're so well coached, and they trigger quickly. They play instinctual football because they're allowed to play instinctual football because they know what they're looking at. If Ohio State has to second guess at what they're looking at, it might not be a thing where Notre Dame ends up scoring 40 because they get Ohio State off balance, but Ohio State off balance gives you a chance. And quite frankly, you have a quarterback now, I think, that can give you a chance if you have them second guessing, because he's got the ability to get on the perimeter and make something happen, because he's got some ability to hopefully, extend plays with his legs and go north and south in that situation and pick up key first downs. So all that's to say, it all centers around, can you get Notre Dame into a spot where they can have Ohio State playing just a half step slow? Doesn't have to be this defining factor where, again, that ends up being the reason why you blow Ohio State out of the building, but it does have to be a thing where you get a little bit of momentum, a little bit of belief, keeps you hanging around. That's all I need. That's all I needed from Notre Dame because, again, I think get it to the fourth quarter, and that's where your traits can show itself. That's the big part for Notre Dame that gets me excited about them in this spot. Like, I've given my prediction before on this game already, so we won't rehash that right now. But I have Notre Dame covering, all right? 8.5 points, the reason why I have them covering, because I think this team is so tough to figure out, and I think they are such a never-say-die operation, and they're going to find a way, I believe, to make this a game, at least in the fourth quarter or into the second half. So for Ryan Day, man, what would it require for Ohio State to be in a spot where they can win the football game? And for them, that path is a lot easier to see. Like, you don't have to really squint to see how Ohio State can make this a spot where they end up winning the football game. Why? Because the spread's 8.5. To me, it's about, can we stay aggressive, right? It's like, go into this game and play to win the freaking game. Like, we saw them do that against Texas. We'll talk about that more in a second. But I want, like, in every facet, us to put the pedal to the metal and be on the aggressor side of this. Because there's a part of this game and the lead up to it that feels very similar to what the preseason was for Ohio State. Everyone's saying, the Buckeyes are going to be tough to stop. They got the best roster in college football, and we name all their players. We do that a lot, and it's fair to say it's been warranted at this point. But I wonder a little bit how much that impacts them when it comes to the first half of this football game, which we have a bold prediction on a little bit later in the show. I want to see them attacking in every single area. One of the reasons I believe that they have been so successful in this college football playoff, Will Howard said it yesterday during media days, is like, we've been successful because we kind of played with a bit of an edge to us. We've been pissed off. And when you're pissed off, you get aggressive. Offensively, that's catered to Ohio State. Like, Ohio State scares you when they're taking deep shots downfield, when they're testing your corners, especially in the spot now where Notre Dame is going to play man coverage. Like, you test that early, often, and frequently. So I want to make sure we let this racehorse run down the backstretch, all right? Like, we're not being conservative with our play calling. We're not trying to hide Will Howard. That's been a talking point all week for a lot of folks. We've said it on our show already. This is a spot now where you're no longer questioning who is Will Howard. Can he be the guy just to not crash the car? That's not the case for him, man. Like, he's proven to you in multiple spots now, especially during this college football playoff, he is trustworthy to let you cut it loose. And Ohio State has got to cut it loose from a game plan perspective. On top of that, the reason why this is kind of a more simplistic discussion around Ohio State winning the football game is, like, based on what Vegas is telling you, they are the better football team per that spread. Now, is that the case on Monday night? Remains to be seen. Other teams have been favored against Notre Dame and come up short. But I'm so curious how they approach this thing from a competitive perspective as well. Forget the game plan for a second. Ohio State, in the game against Oregon and Michigan, we said this multiple times, to me it felt just a little bit like when it got close and you're in the fourth quarter, they got maybe a touch tight. They did a phenomenal job against Texas correcting that, especially in that goal line stand, and Jack Sawyer's got the strip sack back 80 yards, and that was poetic in every single sense. But, like, I still need to see Ohio State in this spot now not have a situation, just what we said with the game plan. Like, when you get in that second half situation, play to win, whatever that looks like. You're not checking your feet. You're not protecting your lead or wherever you're at. Like, keep the pedal to the metal and rely on those traits that you have acquired now from the Michigan loss, from the Oregon loss, from everyone telling you about what you're not based on this post or from these regular season results. Like, that to me has been the flip that is, or the switch that has flipped for Ohio State and why they've had success in this playoff. Need to see them not play tight in order to win. There's a lot to be unpacked there with both game plans, but if Ohio State's aggressive, they're going to have a real good shot, I think, to hoist that hardware when it comes to how this thing ends tonight. But whoever wins the national championship tonight, whether it's Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day, it's going to mean a lot in different ways to both sides. What would it mean? Let's start with Ryan Day. What would it mean for Ryan Day if Ohio State were to win the national championship? You get that monkey off your back, obviously, if you're him, and you probably turn some of the volume down around all your criticism. To me, it's this thing where Ryan Day is no longer making the case for himself. You have to argue with the credentials. Because we've talked about Ryan Day, and, like, the record speaks for itself. He's a really good football coach. Like, the Michigan game is the Michigan game, but you take his entire body of work, he's a good football coach, man. But it's always this argument. And the argument is consistently backed by these folks that have the case of, well, the Michigan thing plus never won a national championship. You know, he gets that. I mean, he's been to the national championship one time and, like, didn't get it done. So there's that case there. But once you have a national title to your name, man, especially with this run, playing as many games as they've played, beating two at different points throughout the season, number one teams. Oregon was number one when they played them. Texas was number one during the regular season, and they beat them in the college football playoff. Like, that to me, I think would go a long way. And we did a video on this already on the channel, but, like, the narrative around him continues to be born on third base, given all this talent, has all these resources, and it almost takes away from, like, the job that he's done as a coach. Like, we said this before, man. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of ingredients you gave me to give you a national title caliber ribeye. I would come up short. Why? Because I don't have those abilities. I wasn't able to put it together. Ryan Day has got national title caliber ingredients, but you still give the chef credit if they give you national title caliber results. And so in this spot, like, I think at that point you can have the Michigan discussion, and that still exists, but the conversation around Ryan Day as a head coach, to me, should have a good amount of volume turned down on it, for my money. Now we look to the future, and I think a lot of people are saying, well, you know, this is a great run. Ohio State's been, you know, generational in a lot of ways with how they've played in this playoff, but this is probably a one-off, right? This is probably a super team that we may never see again. And I see where you're coming from with the portal, with NIL, with how competitive the talent acquisition space has become. But, like, I look to the future for Ohio State, and I look at how they care about football, and look at how Ryan Day is trending. It's only his 6th season being a head coach in college football. I mean, he's still relatively new at this. And, by the way, all 6 of those seasons have been as the head coach at Ohio State. So he's still learning on the job and evolving and getting better, and he's proven he's willing to evolve. So I have a hard time thinking if Ohio State's able to put together this roster with $20 million, a lot of that going to player retention, if a little bit or those results of a national championship comes from $20 million, I don't think the powers that be at Ohio State see what Michigan's doing, see what Oregon's doing, and they say, okay, we got you $20 million, you got us a national championship. Do they end up getting more money in the future? Is this a thing where it activates the pockets even further in Columbus? Because say what you want about that fan base, man, they care about their Buckeyes, man. If they're guilty of one thing, it's caring. And we tell you, man, caring is, in a lot of ways, I think equates to national title caliber results on the field. You can no longer have an apathetic fan base and win a national championship. It can't happen, it won't happen, it will not happen. And Ohio State is anything but apathetic. And I wonder if, as much as the negative results of losing to Michigan and not winning national championships kind of stoked the flames financially of them having a season like this, I wonder if the success of a year like this wouldn't even turn the thing up even more. I think you have more people willing to activate the pocketbooks and believe in Ryan Day, believe in the mission, believe in the direction. So is this year a one-off? It could be. But I lean a lot more in the direction of this might just be the start for Ryan Day. This could be the year where he figures it out and they go on, dare I say, a dynastic run. That's kind of counter to what a lot of y'all are hearing based on this playoff, and that might end up being true. But, again, I feel a little bit more like this might just be the tip of the iceberg for Ryan Day when it comes to his future success at Ohio State. I don't think this is the last national championship he wins if they get it done tonight. So that's Ryan Day. Let's move on to Marcus Freeman, though. What would it mean if Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame won a national title tonight? Just sit with that for a second. For the first time since 1988, since Lou Holtz was the head coach for the Fighting Irish, Notre Dame's won this national freaking championship. We've said it before, like, this year already for Notre Dame, you could roll credits on it, and it's a success by every single metric, right? Nobody is looking back at this season, even if Notre Dame were to. We don't have it happening, but if they were to get boat race tonight, nobody would say, man, Notre Dame just bad year, man. No, nobody's saying that because you've changed the oxygen around Notre Dame because you beat a Georgia, because of your showing against Penn State. Like, the conversations you have now around what Notre Dame is going to be in the future because of Marcus Freeman is, I mean, it's up and to the right, man. That's the way that you look at Notre Dame football. But if they were to win the national championship, it would be an explosion. it'd be an explosion because talking to folks close to Notre Dame's never really had to recruit against, like, themselves when it comes to, like, what Marcus Freeman is and what that roster is and what they've done in his short span of time there. It's always been recruiting against the optics of previous Notre Dame plus, like, the other options. Like, plus, could I go to Georgia? Could I go to Bama? Could I go to an Ohio State, Michigan, or wherever that maybe has a little more skins on the wall as of the last 10 years, right? So you have that paired with what I just said, the optics around Notre Dame of what they've not been in the postseason, losing to a Clemson embarrassing fashion, losing to an Alabama embarrassing fashion on multiple occasions, both the BCS National Championship and the College Football Playoff. So in some ways, man, if you were to win the national championship, these last couple of years might have kind of been like some resistance training for Marcus Freeman. Like they've been trying to put this thing together with a weight vest on. They've been running uphill with a weight vest on, trying to put together a roster that can go compete for a national championship, and they're in this spot now. If they get it done and that weight vest comes off and they have all these skins on the wall and they have all this success they can look back on and point to as like, hey, this is what works. Now we have more wind beneath our wings and we can really get this thing rolling. That would be scary because, again, nobody's having an issue with Marcus Freeman. It's all about, man, I don't know if I want to pick Notre Dame over this school that's more established, this school that's won a national championship more recently, that's not just recruiting on. The Notre Dame tradition is nice, but, like, I don't know where this thing is headed. You know where it's headed now, man, especially with a national championship to point to for Marcus Freeman. You know where it's headed. You know where it's headed. And same thing what we said about Ohio State is true about Notre Dame. Winning gets people excited. Excited people like to open up the checkbook. Excited people like to spend some dollars and cents on things, all right? So if you are able to battle on the resources side even more than you are already at Notre Dame, and I'm not telling you Notre Dame's poor by any stretch of the imagination, but if you have even more people get dialed in on that front, Notre Dame's cooking with gas, and then there's no way around that. So a lot at stake for Marcus Freeman tonight in terms of exploding what they've done this year, but this year is already a success, but it would, I think, exponentially maybe expedite what they're doing right now in-house and provides for some phenomenal success going forward. And I'll say this, too, even if they don't win tonight, I think Notre Dame will be back in this spot here sooner rather than later. Glad to have you all tuned in, man. Make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already. Here at the Westin Peachtree little media hotel, got the media lounge behind us, got games going on all around us, got people recording content. It's a good vibe out here, man. The electricity for the national title game is palpable. I'm so juiced for this game. I cannot wait to get out there tonight, man. There's a lot to unpack with this thing. Moving right along. I said this before, man, and I'm gonna stick to this. We're not a hot take show. Never have been, never will be. It's not us. All right, we have too much respect for the people that make this game what it is, for the coaches and the players and all that. But there is a time, I think, to have some bold takes. Teddy Roosevelt says it best. Credit goes to the man in the arena. We're going to step into the arena right now, give you some bold predictions for tonight's national championship game. Make sure you know, 1, subscribe to the channel. 2, the hard count brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Tonight now, Will Howard, half a passing yard. You lock that in. Take the more, obviously, and that will hit, and you'll be halfway home because you just need one more square. We got one more square for you in this segment. Again, code hard count, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds. So the first bold prediction I have for you for the national championship game Monday night. I think this thing is close for the first 2 quarters. I really do. I already told you, if you've watched this show and go check out our prediction video, we have Ohio State. We don't have them covering. But I think this game is either tied or a 3-point margin either side at halftime. All right? The reason why I feel that way, I just have a difficult time believing that Notre Dame, after how slow they came out against Penn State, I think they're going to make that a point of emphasis to start fast against Ohio State in this national title game. I also think with all that's been said about Notre Dame, with them being 8.5-point dogs and all that, like, I think they probably feel some sort of challenged, if you will. I mean, they've said they're going to come out and play man coverage. I think they're going to bring a pretty intense showing to get this thing rolling. Now, I think for Ohio State, it's also worth noting, even though we have them winning the football game, there's a lot of pressure on Ohio State. Like everyone said about, Ryan Day and the best roster and all that, like the pressure to win this game is absolutely on Ohio State. I'm not telling you that means they start slow, but I do think if I'm Notre Dame, like, we got nothing to lose, man. It's house money at this point. There's nothing more dangerous than a gambler with house money, and that's what Notre Dame is right now. So I think they bring it in the first half, and again, I think it's very, very tight when we go into the break. Another bold prediction. I think in the second half, we see a special team swing, whether it be for Notre Dame or for Ohio State. That's, I think, the separating factor when it comes to how this thing starts to lean one way or the other. The reason why I feel that way, if you've watched Notre Dame all postseason, that's who they are. Like Marty Biaggi, special teams coordinator and assistant DBs coach for Notre Dame, give him a ton of credit for the way that they have, had the run they've had. It was the difference against Georgia. They had 13 points on special teams with the kickoff return, the 2 field goals, the game-winning field goal against Penn State. Like, this is kind of who Notre Dame's been. And I think if you want to beat the big dog, you want to beat the team that's an 8.5-point favorite right now, you got to find a way to win in the margins like Notre Dame has done all year long. So I think if Notre Dame wins, you look at special teams, it will play some factor, I promise you right now. On the flip side for Ohio State, in a spot like this, it probably requires some championship DNA vibes on special teams to get it done. Can't help but look back at Caleb Downs back there returning punts. Already run one back already against Indiana this year. He's been on a tear this postseason, at least, with how he's stepped up in big moments. It would not shock me in the slightest if Caleb Downs met the moment, had a big punt return he either took back to the crib or he put Ohio State within scoring position. Like, I think that's something we could count on for Ohio State, again, if they end up being the team that wins this game like we believe they will be. Riley Leonard, been a dude that has just found a way all postseason long, I should say. He comes over to Notre Dame in the offseason from Duke, and there's a lot of conversation around what does he bring to the table and how does he impact the offense and all those things. Like, I just think in this spot now, I think he has his best passing performance from a yardage perspective this entire season. And you're hearing me say, like, JD, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because this is the best defense that Notre Dame's going to play this year. Riley Leonard has found a way all postseason long, but like, are we really thinking against this Ohio State secondary he has his best passing yard total? I'm going to say yes. And it might be a dirty bulk. It may not be the most attractive 4 verts. Riley Leonard's carving them up. It might be some check down bonanza. It might be some jailbreak screen and some stuff to the running backs. It may not be the most appeasing 230 plus, but I think it will be a spot where Riley Leonard finds a way to just continue to find a way. Like, you find a way to find a way is probably the best way to say it when it comes to Riley Leonard. And you're saying, JD, again, that doesn't make sense. I hear you. But y'all, this team, Notre Dame being in this spot, that doesn't make sense. They got outrushed by 100 yards against Penn State. The Georgia game, they got much less talent from a Stars perspective than Georgia. It doesn't make sense, and so that's why we're fading our own better logic and saying Riley Leonard finds a way to have his best passing yards of the entire season. Also worth noting, he's coming off of a game against Penn State where he had his best passing yard total, also the best defense they played to that point. Against Penn State, he went for 223. His best game of the season came against Stanford where he had 229. So, again, 230 plus is what we're telling you Riley Leonard is going to have in this spot. The prize pick square we like, 219.5, is Riley Leonard's rushing and passing yards combined. So we're giving ourselves some margin there with our prediction, but we'll take the more there. Feel great about it. Code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, get you $50 in promo funds. If Notre Dame wins, I think it has to be because of something like that. Mike Denbrock knows they got to swing big. There's a swagger and a confidence, I think, behind this Notre Dame team that will elevate them in the passing game. A long way to tell you, Riley Leonard, I think he has his best passing performance of the entire season in the biggest spot of the season for the Irish. Now, last bold prediction for you. Who wins the MVP for this game? Like, Will Howard's the betting favorite at -110. Riley Leonard, if Notre Dame were to win, you would think would probably get the lean. He's at +500. Jeremiah Smith, I believe, will win the MVP for this national title game. Currently +360 if you want to make some money on that. I do not love the recipe for Notre Dame when it comes to man coverage against Jeremiah Smith. Now, hear me clearly. I don't love the recipe when it comes to a 4-quarter game. Because I look at Jeremiah Smith, I look at what he did against Oregon, look at what he did against Tennessee. It's a matter of time before he gets his. And Texas did a phenomenal job, give them all the credit in the world, the way they were able to essentially take him away. They played a lot of zone coverage. Notre Dame's not going to play a lot of zone. They're going to play a lot of our guy versus your guy. We like our dude versus your dude. Jeremiah Smith is a freak show, man. 6'3", 225. The numbers are what they are. I just think you're not going to win enough matchups against him man-to-man to where he doesn't get his. You say, well, JD, Will Howard, again, -110. If Jeremiah Smith has a big day, doesn't Will Howard have a big day? Absolutely true. We're going to kind of try to thread the needle here with this prediction. Notre Dame is very plucky. Very, very plucky. So I could see a world now where Will Howard, heck, he might have 2 picks, and Jeremiah Smith has a huge day. And that ends up being the reason why he wins the MVP for the national title game en route to an Ohio State victory. It could be a thing, too, where, hey, Will Howard went for 300-plus yards, but Jeremiah Smith had $150-plus. Like, maybe that's the way that it works. So again, threading the needle, but I go back to this. If Notre Dame's going to keep with the same pitch of we're playing man coverage, they may get a few strikeouts early in this game. They might get Notre Dame, or Ohio State, in a spot where they kind of got to regroup at halftime. But if you give Chip Kelly the same pitch over and over again, even if it looks different ways, give him 2 quarters of data to look at, you look at the second half, and I think Ohio State finds a way now with Jeremiah Smith, with Chip Kelly, and with the way this team is wired, man. I think they find a way to have a big day through the air. I think Jeremiah Smith wins the MVP because of that scheme and because of what he's going to do in this spot. Last thing I'll say about Jeremiah Smith, kind of got some legend to him, right? Like even since he got to campus at Ohio State, there was always this vibe of like, hey, man, he's just freshman now, and he's a true freshman, enrolled early, but he's been tearing it up. And we'd see little clips from practice via, social media, hype videos or whatever. He's making one-handed catch after one-handed catch. He's sort of always had some legend to him. He's got Michael Jordan as his profile picture on Twitter. It just feels like it fits, right? Like in a game like this, when you're doing bold predictions, you kind of got to go with your gut and your feeling. And we just feel like it would fit so perfectly for Jeremiah Smith to rebound from a game where he gets 3 yards against Texas to go for a big day against Notre Dame and to win the MVP when it's all said and done for the national title game. So again, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds to get you rolling and have a good time tonight for the national championship game. And that's exactly what we're going to do on this show, man. This has been a phenomenal year, man. Phenomenal year. I mean, from the 12-team playoff and all the excitement that's brought in the postseason to the realignment and the matchups we got, like college football. I know there's a lot around the sport that maybe we could have a conversation about that we wish was different or that we, would like to see trend in a different direction. And we've done that on the show. We'll do it going forward. But at the end of the day, like that product that we all still love, I compare it a lot, that natural beauty that is college football, that's still intact. And so you appreciate that, you enjoy that, and we're going to continue to enjoy that, man. So tonight, man, soak it in. Soak all of it up. Take none of it for granted because it's going to be a long time now. We're going to be salivating over spring games. We'll be dialed in for spring intel when that gets here. We got winter conditioning around the corner. Some folks are already jumping into that. This is your last fix here for a little bit when it comes to your college football appetite. So again, we just appreciate y'all so much spending the season with us. If you haven't yet, subscribe, spend the offseason with us. We're going to have a good time. The content does not slow down. But genuinely, from us to y'all, man, we were doing this show out of a lobby in Waco, Texas for a long time before we got to do this at On 3 and pay the bills this way. And extremely grateful. We don't take a second of this for granted. Like I said at the top of the show, we're going to enjoy every single minute of being on the field pregame, being on the field postgame, watching this game. Like, this is just hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. We do this for a job. So, for Kane Smith on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, let's have an incredible national title game. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.